Good day everyone. Today, I will be discussing about the critical evaluation and promotion of indigenous practices. But first, allow me to introduce myself. I am Charles Pablo, a first-year college at Pangasinan State University Urdaneta City campus, taking a Bachelor of Secondary Education major in Science. Before we delve into our topic, let's first know what is the learning objective of this presentation. At the end of this presentation, first, the students will learn and understand about the different practices of indigenous people. The second, will be able to critically evaluate and promote the indigenous practices in the Philippines. Third, the students will gain knowledge about the impact of indigenous knowledge system and practices or the IKSP to their culture. Before we proceed to our lesson, let's have a pretest first to know if you have an existing knowledge about my topic. For the instruction, rearrange the jumbled letters to form the word that are essential to the topic today.
Answer: Indigenous practices. Answer: farming. Answer: Bajoas. Answer: handicraft. Answer: Ifgaos.
So let's move on to our topic. But first, let's define what is indigenous people. So the word indigenous refers to the notion of a place-based human ethnic culture that has not migrated from its homeland and is not a settler or colonial population. So indigenous people refers to a group of people sharing common bands of language, custom, tradition, and other distinctive cultural traits. So the Philippines is an archipelago country made up of 62 cultural or indigenous cultural communities. So what is indigenous knowledge system and practices? So IKSP are local knowledge developed over centuries of experimentation and are passed orally from generation to generation. It was found to be an important catalyst to sustainable development due to their direct connection to resources management and conservation. Since there are so many indigenous communities in the Philippines, I decided to choose only one indigenous group in each major island in the Philippines to discuss their indigenous practices. So these are the Luzon's indigenous people. There are Igorots, Mangyans, Aitas, Lumads, Ibaloys, Ifugaos, Kalingas, Ilongots, Itneg, Tagbanwa, Gadang, Ibanag, Buntoks, Kankanaey, Kalanguyas, and Isnag. But we will only focusing on Ifugaos of Cordillera. So, who are the Ifugaos? The Ifugaos are inhabitants of the eastern and northeastern part of Cordillera mountain ranges of central northern Luzon. Ifugaos are tall compared to other tribes. They have brown skin with dark eyes, straight hair, and thin lips. They are an industrious people depending mainly on rice growing for their subsistence. As mountain dwellers, all their activities are associated with the surrounding environment. They improve and manage their environment based on their intimate experience and traditional knowledge accumulated over many generations. For centuries, the Ifugaos have managed to extract sustenance from their rugged environment using their simplest tool. The origin and historical perspective of the Ifugaos. The indigenous knowledge system and practices of the Ifugaos have started and evolved since time immemorial. They have been handed down from generation to generation through oral communication and actual experience. When parents take their children with them to work in the fields, the children automatically pick up the knowledge and practices of their parents. The strong cultural identity of the Ifugaos have contributed to the preservation of their IKSPs and its passing down from one generation to another. Let's move on to the farming system of the Ifugaos. The farming system of the Ifugaos is consists of the payo or the rice terraces, the muyong or the wood lot, and the uma or the sweden. First, the payo or the hagdan-hagdan palayan. The construction of payo fields considered many factors. One of the importance is the availability of water. The terraces to be constructed must have a continuous supply of water to avoid the drying up of the paddy field. It should also have an excellent drainage to prevent water logging. There should also be abundant rock materials for walling, easy construction, and repair of damage. The shape of the valley is another consideration. It should have a deep concave slope and the soil must be fertile to ensure continuous supply of nutrients. The terraces should not be adjacent to settlements to minimize trampling and damage from stray animals. Terraces formation takes the longest time in field preparation. It starts from late July and extends to late November. Heavy work in mud soil, rock and stone are activities carried out during this period. An initial agricultural rite is performed by each family. Ugbo or bayanihan or shared labor system is employed in this activity. Otherwise, hired labor is employed. So let's move on to the Uma or Sweden. Uma is the part of the Ifugao landscape devoted to agricultural production. Site selection for Uma involves different consideration. The slope of the area should not be a steeper than 40% to minimize the occurrence of soil erosion and landslide. The area should not be rocky to maximize the use of Sweden. Lastly, the area should be fertile to enhance production. Preparation and planting of the Uma takes place about 3 months from late March to late June. It is a period where the maintenance of the growing crop in the payo is lightest. In site clearing, implements such as bolos and axes are used to fell trees and other vegetation. The slashes vegetation is allowed to dry for about a week and it is burned. Runo grass dries truly and burns completely, leaving a thick blanket of ash. A fire break is constructed along the sides and upper margin of the new or extended plots. Firing is usually done in middle of the day. Preparation of the soil for planting begins after burning and is carried out by all the household member. The Ifugaos regard burning as a practical and expensive way of preparing the uma for planting. In their own opinion, burning is good for the soil as the ashes help improve soil fertility. Burning also helps regulates the growth of the undesired weeds and drives away animals that might invade and damage their crop. Let's move on to muyong, or woodlots. The muyong, also referred by the Ifugao as pinugo, consists of second-growth forests with an area ranging from 0.5 to 3 hectares per family, dominated by dipterocarps, with associated commercial and miscellaneous species. In Lamut, coffee is planted in the forest to maximize the use of woodlots. Trees are girdled and thinned to regulate the intensity of light reaching the coffee plants, but an adequate number of seeding and sapling are left to generate and to provide harvestable timber later on. Agricultural practices such as weeding, topping, and branch bending are done to enhance growth of coffee plants. The coffee plants starts to bear fruit after 4 to 5 years. The pinugo in Banawe, Ifugao are not underplanted with coffee as the cooler climate is not favorable for the to coffee to grow. Instead, weeding is undertaken to allow the favored trees species to grow. Enrichment planting is done in the pinugo to diversify the system. Trees planted including pine trees or the Pinus kesseya, the Alnus or the Halnus japonica, the rain tree or the Samanea saman, Nara, and other full wood species. Wood carving of Ifugaos. Wood carving is both a livelihood and an art among the Ifugaos. Like the rice terraces, it has an ancient origin. Many Ifugaos in Banawe and surrounding municipalities are involved in wood carving in the combination with farming. This craft is carried out during dry season. For many residents, it is more profitable to remain at home carving than to work for wages in any industry in a faraway place. The Ifugaos wood carvers have only the simplest hand tool for carving, such as a saw, bolos, chisels, and T-squares. Sandpaper is used to smoothen the surface of the carvings. The Ifugaos carve many different wooden objects such as a decorative house beams, food container, utensils, etc. They also carve the figures of their different gods, like bulul is carved from nara wood. The different design of the various products are taken from the surrounding environment based on what the carvers can imitate. Let's move on to the livestock farming of the Ifugaos. The Ifugaos raise livestock including pigs, chickens, fish, and carabaos. Their main reason for raising animals, especially chicken and pigs, is to enable them to perform their cultural rites or the kanao or kanyao during harvest. It is also served as a source of additional income. The animal are also bartered for rice. Large varieties of pigs which are kept in pens are raised exclusively from their meat. Native pigs are also raised in confinements, but are sometimes allowed to roam around the vicinity of the home lots. Native pigs are preserved for sacrificial purposes. Kamote leaves and tubers are cut and cooked as feeds to pigs. The pigs are fed 2 to 3 times a day. Banana fruit and galang are also used as a supplement food for livestock. Fish are raised in Ifugao's payo system on limited scale. A separate terraces with higher dikes is used for these purposes. The fish are raised and rice and taro cultivated at the same time. Fish such as yoyo or the Japanese fish, tilapia, tampipi or the million fish, and a variety of snails are raised. Small fish like tampipi and yoyo are caught using local woven bamboo traps called bobo. The traps are installed in narrow waterways at the lower dike of the terrace. So let's move on to the weaving of the Ifugaos. Another home-based livelihood among the Ifugaos is weaving. The Ifugao weave a variety of products ranging from primary products such as tapis, G-strings, and ikat to bags, purses, wallets, placemats, bedsheets, chalecos, and pencil cases. The thread used for weaving is obtained locally and from Manila. A locally designed wooden apparatus called potolan is used to weave the threads or the saluktok crosswise. It is plated with a very simple 50 centimeter wooden or bamboo rod to support the strand and serve as a beater. Natural and artificial dyes are used to attain the desired color and the beauty of the product. The threads are dyed for weaving. Dyeing is done by boiling the thread in the water together with the dye solution for almost an hour. Natural dyes are extracted and obtained from wood, bark, flower, and the leaves of various local plants. Dye from nara, sawdust can be extracted by boiling the nara in water for 1 hour. Extracted is filtered and dyed extraction from alnus is similar. Alnus produce a black color or black or blue color, while hawili produces a navy blue color. Luya or ginger naman is pounded to extract the juice, then mixed with the hawili to extract a gray or navy blue color. So the traditional medicine and health care of the Ifugaos. The Ifugaos believe that every illness which befalls human being has its own corresponding ritual-based cure. Locally, it is believed that the illness of the children and adults are the same, but different in name only. They are called minuyong for babies, nabuakan for adults, females, and natablan for adult males. Baki is performed inside the home by a local priest called mumbaki. A ritual basket is prepared containing 2 pieces of betel nut and 2 pieces of betel leaves, which are placed in the middle of the floor. A cup of rice wine is poured in a coconut shell, which is placed beside the betel nuts and the leaves. The chickens to be used for the rituals are placed nearby. So there are herbal medicine of the Ifugaos like avocados for stomach ache, tamarind for cough and cold, ampi for fungal skin disease, and oko shoots for wound healing. So, what is the impact of indigenous knowledge system and practices? For the economic, the major livelihood and the surrounding of indigenous knowledge system and practices of the Ifugaos have significantly contributed to their survival. Income from their farming system is adequately supplemented by their income from supporting livelihood, such as wood carving, weaving, and handicraft manufacture. And for ecological, the farming system of the Ifugaos like wall terracing, dike construction, composting, and enrichment planting are ecologically sound and sustainable. Dike construction controls soil erosion and the overflow of water as well as the preventing landslide and maintains soil fertility. Extensive cultivation of the uma makes it prone to soil erosion and lower the soil fertility. But the practices of planting kamote and harvesting it through spot digging minimize soil erosion. The natural fallow system promotes biodiversity conservation through secondary succession. For sociocultural, local livelihoods like wood carving, weaving, and handicraft production have helped in the preservation of the Ifugao's culture. Through their work, they are able to express themselves artistically and their unique culture is recognized by others. So let's move on to Panay's indigenous people. There are Mangyans, Tausog people, Ibaloy, Yakan, Blaan, Ati, Mandaya, Tibuli, Higanon, Kankanaoy, Bungkalot, Mansaka, Ratagnon, Kalayanon, Tasaday, Mamanwa. Who are the Atis? A number of postulates had been formulated by different historians and authors on the origin of the Atis in Panay. Bolante wrote that this ethnic group must have traveled overland from India, crossing Malay Peninsula, Indonesia, and Borneo towards the Philippine island. He claims that they must have entered the Philippines through the Palawan and Sulu chains. The Atis can be found in different provinces of Panay, Iloilo, Antique, Capiz. They also found in other places but with different names. For Negros, they call this as Ata. Zambales, Tarlac, Pampanga, they call this as Ita. In Isabela, they call this as Agta. In Cagayan, they call this as Pugot. The Atis are by nature nomadic. Their abode ranges from the coast of the lowland and the uplands. The Atis were among the first cultural group to practice slash and burn agriculture. Their search for food influenced their movements. They move from one place to another wherever the prospects of obtaining sustenance is promising. Their nomadism is, however, aggravated by the fact that they do not own land to cultivate or settle on. In lean months, some Ati family eat just one meal a day. Through the years, the Atis of Panay have transformed into sedentary or settled communities. Factors that brought this about include the influence of major cultural groups, cash or market economy, and education. The major livelihood of Atis. The livelihood of the Atis highly depend on their immediate environment and resources at their disposal. In Nagpana, Baratak, the major livelihood of Atis. The livelihood of Atis is highly depend on their immediate environment and resources at their disposal. In Nagpana, Barotac Viejo, Iloilo, the Atis' main livelihood is farming. In Igkabati and Igkaputol, Dao, Antique, the Atis make livings from nipa shingles and fishing. In all the sites visited, their annual income from this occupation is insufficient, so that they have to earn additional income by working as laborers in rice and sugar cane farms in faraway places, like Pasig and Negros province. The origin and historical perspective of Atis. The indigenous knowledge system and practices of Atis have existed and evolved since time of immemorial. They were passed down by parents to their children up to the present generation. Livestock raising was, however, introduced by the government in its desire to uplift the socio-economic condition of the tribe. In Nagpana, Barotac, Viejo, the traditional Kainan or Sweden practices of the Atis have been modified to become more sustainable with the technological intervention of the DENR or the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. So for the farming system of Atis, the Atis were probably the first to practice Sweden farming or slash and burn system in the country. Those who live in the upland areas such as the Atis in Nagpana, Barotac, Viejo, Iloilo engage in Sweden farming. Preparatory to planting the areas is cleared and grass removed using bolos. The areas is then tilled with the help of water buffalo drive-in plows. Areas with steeper slope are tilled with hoes and bolos. The Atis use small pieces of wood or stick to pulverize the soil prior to planting. Guna is a type of a sharp knife is used to till hard mountain soil, while a point stick, pisaw, is used to create holes for corn seed, beans, and etc. Planting start at the onset of the rainy season. Water buffalo manure is used to fertilize plants, while crops are growing. Weeding and fertilization are carried out using organic and inorganic fertilizers. Planted crops are ready for harvest after 3 to 4 months. The rice varieties planted are Azucena, Malido, at Kutsiyan. Hunting. Hunting is a secondary source of subsistence among the Atis. In their early days, the Atis hunted with bows and arrows. These bows and arrows were also used for fishing and for defense purposes. Wild chicken, real bird, owl, and quail are captured in traps. A tigsuhot, or a simple snare, is employed for trapping. Bolante described tigsuhot as being made up of binitlag or slot, encircle a dead frog. Two spring traps are attached on two places near the encirclement. A monitor lizard or bird attempting to get the bait Through one of the openings is trapped by the snare. For the handicrafts of Atis. Handicraft production is a secondary occupation among Atis. Handicrafts are made during the rest period. Indigenous materials like beribid, black vine, bolo, huag are used. Products are woven following a geometric design. Native vine with either black or brownish skin are used to embellish some of their works, such as the buon-buon or wallet. Wallets are manufactured from buri leaves, or the Corypha elata, and lavishly decorated with the black native vine. The vine is split into two and soaked in the water before it is woven into wallets. Bracelets are also woven from the same materials. Mats, on the other hand, are woven using buri leaves. The making of nefash shingles from coconut leaves is a primary livelihood of Atis in Dao Antique. It is usually done during the dry months. Coconut leaves are gathered free of charge from nearby areas with their owner's permission. The leaves are soaked in the water for 1 day to make them smooth and pliable. Bamboo slots are used to hold and fold coconut leaves in place. These are tied with buri strips. The finished products are 1.5 meters long and are used as roofing materials for a new house or those under renovation, or the new house that I am saying is the kubo-kubo. The making of nefa shingles from coconut leaves is a primary livelihood of Atis in Dao Antique. It is usually done during the dry months. Coconut leaves are gathered free of charge from nearby areas with the owner's permission. The leaves are soaked in water for 1 day to make them smooth and pliable. Bamboo slots are used to hold the folded coconut leaves in place. These are tied with buri strips. The finished products are 1.5 meters long and are used as roofing materials for new house or kubo-kubo, or those under renovation. Fishing is carried out by men, individually or in groups at night. The fishermen then return to shore early in the morning. The Atis in Igkaputol Dao Antique employ simple methods to catch fish. For example, the hook and line, or what they call bonnet, are different kinds of fishing nets, and the lagtang vine to poison the fish. In narrow creek, fish traps are used. With the fish poisoning method, the fruit of lagtang, a baneful plant, are strewn in the water to lure the fish into the surface. When the fish eat the fruit, they easily become dizzy and float for a while. Fishing nets are used in the ocean. At the most, 14 people are needed to conduct this operation. This net is laid in suspension across the water for a few hours, after which it is pulled back and the catch is landed in the boat. Small fish are caught by this method because of the relatively large holes in the net. Bulldogs are what they call the fish net used by the Atis. Spear guns are also used for fishing, along with locally devised water goggles to observe the fish underwater. Fish caught include bulaw, pugaw, bisugo, alimasag, silayan, and malasugi. For the livestock farming of the Atis is becoming popular among in Nagpana, Barotac Viejo, Iloilo, and Igkaputol Dao Antique. Animals like chickens, pigs, goats, carabaos, and cows are raised in the area. Chicken are placed in an inverted cone-shaped bamboo enclosure called kurong, with a diameter of about 1 meter. As many as 15 to 20 chickens are accommodated inside. The birds are confined especially during growing and harvesting time to minimize the damage to crops. Fowl, owl, pigs, and dogs are fed in bamboo through held in place. Pigs are sheltered underneath a tree within the vicinity of the house are tied in place using ordinary ropes. Pigs are fed on cooked taro leaves, banana stalks, and cassava 2 to 3 times a day. They are occasionally bathed to cool them. The Atis says this helps the pigs grow healthier and fatter. Carabaos and cows are grazed on grassy field. Children are assigned to watch them from time to time to keep them from damaging or eating the crops. The traditional healthcare and medicine of Atis. The Atis of Panay are superstitious with regard to illnesses. They use charms and amulets to detect the presence of evil spirit causing the illness. They believe in the existence of Kalanasin, or the spirit of the forest, and Aswang, or the witches. Panagang, a charm, is used against witches. It is consists of vessel filled with oil, shoots of tagahusay, tagahumok, lapuy, chips, panuli, and huag vine. Some twines of the manunggal vine are hung at a corner post of their huts. Their bitter sap of the vine is effective against witches. It is drives away evil spirits. The tiktite is employed as a charm against the forest spirit which inflicts bulaw or malaria. The stone is soaked in water for 1 day. Then the inflicted person drinks the liquid. The Atis also use a mineral stone, diamante negra, soaked in water along with tiktite. This is effective against himit or the evil spirit. The mirku and abara are pieces of a deer porous anther found among burnt trees in the Sweden site. Snake, dog, and catfish bites can be cured through mirku using the abara to absorb the venom from the wound. Turtle bile or ipro is boiled in water and taken by the patient with asthmatic symptoms. It is also effective in curing tuberculosis. The impact of the livelihood and indigenous knowledge system and practices of the Atis. The IKSP, or the farming, livestock raising, fishing of the Atis in Panay helped to augment the socio-economic situation of the community. The Ati family in Agkabagti were the most socially and economically depressed of the Ati communities studied. They are dependent on their wages as laborers for Visayan landlords. Their average wage of only 30 pesos per day. It is not sufficient to support their daily needs. In addition, the Atis in Agkabagti do not have their own land to cultivate. The Atis in Nagpana, Barotac, Viejo, Iloilo are better off. The impact of the livelihood and indigenous knowledge system and practices of the Atis. The IKSPs. Farming, livestock raising, fishing of the Atis in Panay helped to augment the socio-economic situation of the community. The Ati family in Agkabagti were the most socially and economically depressed of the Ati communities studied. They are dependent on their wages as laborers for Visayan landlords. Their average wage of only 30 pesos per day is not sufficient to support their daily needs. In addition, the Atis in Ikabagti do not have their own land to cultivate. The Atis in Nagpana, Barotac, Viejo, Iloilo are better off. Livestock rearing and farming help improve their socio-economic condition. They are able to send their children to school and buy basic necessities like sugar, coffee, salt, and etc. The methods of fishing in Ikaputol, Dao, and Pique are environmentally friendly. The use of bows. The methods of fishing in Ikaputol, Dao, and Pique are environmentally friendly. The use of bow and arrow or pana and fishing nets do not cause undue stress to the aquatic life and the coastal environment. Only bigger sized fish are caught, allowing the small ones to grow and replenish the stock. Despite the traditional fishing methods of the Atis, there is still a threat to the ecological balance due to the modern fishing methods of the Visayan fishermen. The Atis adoption and practice of contour farming and salt are paying off in terms of improved farm production and restoration of the forest cover. The practices are also instrumental in ensuring other amenities like the continued supply of firewood and the availability of water for domestic use as a result of the maintained springs. It is hoped that in time, with the planting of more trees, some of the wildlife the Atis used to hunt, like to monitor the lizards and wild boar, will reappear again in greater number. The Mindanao's indigenous people. There are Badjao, Lumad, Blaan people, Bukidnon, Mandaya, Higaonon, Maranao people, Mamanwa, Tiboli people, Mansaka, Kalagan, Tasaday, Tagbanwa, Subanon, Tedoray, Iranon, Tagakaulo, Tigwahonon, Sangil, Ata, Manobo. So, who are the Badjaos? Along the coast of Sulu and Tawi-Tawi archipelago can be found cluster of communities inhabited by highly mobile people who live in stilt houses. They are both dwelling people and are called sea gypsies or Badjaos. The Badjaos are found along the coast Hulu, Siasis, and Tapul Island, and further south in Sitangkikay and Sibutu. They are also found in far-off places such as in Surigao, Davao, and Zamboanga. The origin of the Badjao is known is unknown, but some historians and anthropologists believe that Badjaus migrated from Malaysia. According to Nemo, the boat-dwelling habit of the Badjaus evolved independently in eastern seas, but his claim on their origin is not clear. The Badjaus are sea nomads whom their tausog Samal laborers sometimes called Samal Luwaan or Samal Laud or Palau or the people of the ocean. The Badjaus tend to shy away from groups other than their own. The Badjaus are peace-loving, seemingly contented, beautiful, and happy people. Major livelihood of the Badjao is seaweed farming and fishing. Fishing reflects the Badjao's cultural inclination to the harvest from nature's bounty, and the seaweed farming reveals their diligence to work and improve on nature's productivity. These livelihoods enhance the preservation of their customs and traditions and distinguish the Badjaos from other neighboring tribes. As boat-dwelling people, the Badjaos are by nature good fishermen. Before seaweed farming was introduced, they depended solely on fishing for their survival. The fishing methods employed by the Badjaos are environmentally friendly. This includes linggi, or net fishing, pag-ambit or deep sea fishing, paubig or pana or the spear and arrow or hook and line, bubu or bamboo fish trap, pitikan or diving weapon, and sangkaliya or shark fishing. Seaweed farming. Seaweed farming is a Seaweed farming of Badjaos. Seaweed farming is a very promising livelihood for poor families in coastal areas. Farmers in some coastal areas like in Sitangkay and Tawi-Tawi are involved in this livelihood. Shifting to seaweed farming reduces the danger of overharvesting and allow fish resources to recover. Seaweed or Yukima is a source of carrageenan or carrageenan, a chemical extract which serves as an essential ingredient in various industrial products. Seaweed is exported to other countries such as Japan, Indonesia, and USA. Harvesting and drying of seaweed. 3 months after planting the seaweed is ready for harvesting. Harvesting is done either by pruning the branches and leaving a portion of the plant to regrow again for the next harvest, or harvesting all the plants and then replacing them with new cuttings. The harvested seaweed is sun-dried for about a week on cleared land or a drying platform made of bamboo slats or concrete. The seaweed is turned from time to time to ensure even drying. Dirt and foreign materials are removed. The seaweed is covered at night and during rain. After drying, the seaweed is packed in sacks and transported to the market. Let's move on to the mat weaving of the Badjaos. The Badjaos are known for their expertise in mat weaving. This home-based activity helps augment the family income. Mat weaving is done by the Badjao women in their spare time. Female children are also involved in this activity. The materials used include pandan leaves, hangatan, an equidistant metal blade tool for stripping pandan leaves, an ambuhot or the bamboo stick for flattening the leaves, and anggang ngibi or the dye for coloring the strips for weaving. The traditional healthcare of the Badjaos. The staple food of the Badjaos consists of grated cassava and sometimes rice. The regular dish consists of boiled seaweed, shark meat, ray fish, octopus, sea urchins, seashells, and other crustaceans gathered from the reef during low tide. The Badjao houses lack proper sanitation. Much of their domestic waste including excreta and rubbish are thrown into the water and swept in different directions by the tide. Diseases such as fever, cholera, ulcers, tuberculosis, malaria, and malnutrition are recurrent among in the community. The Badjaos believe in the healing power of magic and call on the spirit to cure their diseases. A ritual called Pangjin or Paghin is performed to cure such disease. It is performed at night before the full moon is out. The good spirit is asked to cure the illness and diseases, to give them healthy bodies, and to prolong their lives. The Badjaos believe that in the power of the Ginman or Herbolaryo. So, what is the impact of the livelihood and the surrounding of indigenous knowledge system and practices of the Badjaos? The Badjaos derive substantial income from fishing, seaweed farming, and mat weaving. A seaweed farmer can, for example, earn 71,400 pesos per hectare per year, which is sufficient to support the daily needs of the family. In addition to this, the Badjaos can earn extra income from fishing and mat weaving. The Badjaos in Bongao, Tawi-Tawi, who depend only on fishing, are poorer than the Badjaos in Sitangkay. In Bongao, the families depend on their daily catch, which is sometimes low. Some can supplement their income with the mat weaving, but for some families, they can only have afford to eat once a day. Seaweed farming improves marine biodiversity, thus providing a better habitat for the fish. However, seaweed farming can be harmful to the environment if the non-degradable nylon string and straw are not properly handled. Some farmers pollute the sea by leaving this material behind in the sea after harvesting the seaweed. As for the pandan leaves used in mat weaving, there is an unlimited supply and therefore no threat for the environment. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening. Let's have a post test. Direction: choose the best answer for the following question. Write only the letter of the correct answer. I will give you 30 seconds for each question to answer.